Welcome one, welcome all. We have a great Saturday night race ahead of us here, and it is the last week, really, where NASCAR kind of has the spotlight until next week. Actually, on a Sunday, will be the great time to kind of have it as the football send off. But we do have college football later today, where we have a ton of content up on site for the noon game. You also got it for the three-game the three-game main slate, I should say, that Bruce already has put together all the content, rankings, cores, projections, everything out the wazoo. But I know if you're watching this show, you're probably not watching for the NCAA stuff. You know that we got that, and you're here for the NASCAR stuff. And yeah, stats, Daytona, baby, stack the back. You had a great run at it yesterday, but you didn't run completely pure at the end.
Not pure.
But you were up there in the top 5, top 10 the entire time, and you were this close to getting the winner in Xfinity. Hopefully, the luck turns tonight, right?
Listen, if you're going to win one of them, I'd rather win tonight than win last night. But yeah, that is Daytona, and I'm sure most people watching this are familiar with how Daytona kind of runs. But for those who are newer to the NASCAR DFS scene, yeah, I mean Daytona is you cannot count the money at Daytona until it's locked, until you see the zero, even after you see the 0 laps left to go on DraftKings. You may get some changes. So yeah, things happen late at Daytona. They can happen at any time at Daytona, but sometimes these wrecks late, like last night, will wipe out a good chunk of the field. If you're not familiar with how they race, so this is plate racing. Daytona has that. Talladega, those are the two big ones, and it's really the reason they have it at Atlanta too, but it's not a super speedway. It's really probably what makes the races at Daytona and Talladega so exciting is the fact that it is plate racing. It's restrictor plates. And what that means is the cars can only go up to a certain speed. So the way that they really pick up speed is by drafting. And to draft, they need to get on top of the car next to them. They call it bump drafting, where you're literally going to be on the bumper of the car in front of you, and you rely on that push. If you get away from the car in front of you, or there's no car behind you pushing, you will wind up in kind of a no man's land, and you will see those cars go backwards. So what you're going to see for most of the race is kind of how they start. They start in 2 lines, and they're going to sort of stay in 2 lines. And once they start getting into 3 wide, that's when your heart goes in your mouth if those are one of your drivers for sure, or anyone right behind those guys. Because as soon as they get 3 wide, that's when you start seeing guys get loose. That's when you see the wrecks. And because everyone is so bunched up and so tight, the wrecks are catastrophic. So there's a lot of luck involved at the races, at these restrictor plate type of races for that reason. So it's really about surviving, getting yourself in a position of being, if you're in the top 10, that means you're really only 5th, right? Because you're typically running 2x2. So being 10th or 12th, 15th, you're not out of that race at all coming down the stretch. Whereas, you're on a short track and the guy's got a 4-second lead on the car behind him in second. Typically, that's kind of how it's going to finish unless we get a caution. At Daytona, it could be any which way. So like you said, last night, things were going kind of chalky. We had Eric Almirola starting in the back, heavy chalk. Sheldon Creed was heavy chalk starting in the back, and that's essentially what you want at these tracks. We want to really stack the cars that start in the back. The cash lineups are going to be guys who are all starting 30th or worse. That's going to be your typical cash lineup. And like you were talking about to me before we wwent on, that was a cash lineup that won last night.
Yeah.
So when that happens, typically it's going to be a huge chop. And I'll give you guys some numbers, but I'll toss it back to you. But I'll give you some numbers on this track and like what we've seen as far as winning lineups and where cars have started from and drivers have started from in the past that have made their way to the optimal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone saw the winning lineup last night. Let's say you didn't even play Xfinity. To put in perspective, Natalie Decker was in the winner. And if you do know anything about NASCAR, I should tell you how the race went. Late on, shout out to Parker Kligerman, by the way. I mean, that is just an
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Twice in the same season and not get an official win either time. It is really kind of ironic. But yesterday, I wonder if that, I was looking at a small field one, but yeah, this is the one I saw that I think won the small field, but it was Ryan Ellis, Josh Bilicki, Garrett Smithley, Patrick Emmerling, Mason Maggio, and Natalie Decker. I mean, six of the worst cars in Xfinity. I'll tell you. If you had a bottom 6 power ranking, Ryan Ellis might be
there.
the only guy who makes the cut there.
Listen, this year, I'll give you another example. So this year at Daytona, which is the first race of the year, back in February, Jimmy Johnson found his way into the optimal. So
I forgot about that.
So
I talk Jimmy Johnson the entire time too.
Yeah, 40. He started 40th, and really, that's the key: is where you start here. Can you start deep and avoid the wrecks?
Yep.
If you do that, you have a really good chance to find your way to the optimal, because you're going to lose 15 to 20 of these cars at some point in the race. So if you start 35th, just by attrition, you can find your way to 10th, 15th place just by not getting in a wreck. So that's kind of how it works at Daytona. And when you look at the correlation, it's not even correlated to Talladega. It's not even correlated to, certainly not to Atlanta. And that really, what that tells you is there's just so much variance and so much volatility and luck involved at these tracks. If you want to hear some stats, kind of, what we have, it just kind of reiterates what we're talking about. But, historically here, we've seen that the winner, let me bring it up. We've had something like it's about 5.5 on average. 5.5 out of the 6 drivers that you're going to take have started in the 18th position or worse. So just keep that in mind, like when you're building their lineups. If you want to extend that down to down to the 16th place, you've got 5.7 on average. So we're looking at, I would say, certainly a minimum of 4 drivers that you're going to want somewhere in that 15th or worse. You could even get maybe the high teens or worse, at least 4. I would say even 5 if you want to be even more aggressive. We've had one time here in the last few years, 2 drivers start in the top 10 and make it into and that was trying to think what year that was. I think it was 2022 that we had 2 drivers start in the top 10 and find their way into the optimal. But it's very rare that we have any top 10 drivers. So I would say if you're playing 150, I would max 1 driver in the top 10. There is a possibility. We don't get a lot of Dom points here. You only have 160 laps. You don't see too many Dom points, but there is potential to Dom and finish well. You had William Byron, who won this race, who we did bet earlier in the year. It was this year's race, actually, where we had, he started 5th in that race, won the race, and was in the optimal. So it can happen, and I would personally just not play any more than 1 driver in the top 10. Like I said, you went back to, I'm getting it up now, you go back to 2022. We did have 2 drivers in the top 10. They both finished. It was Cindric started 5th, finished 1st, and Blaney started 7th, finished 4th. So, finish position and place differential are massive. I think, again, 150 lineups, I'm going to play. This is one of the few races where I'm going to put groups in. And I will play, just because of where Kyle Busch is, we'll get to all the drivers, because where Kyle Busch is starting today, and I kind of like Kyle Busch on these tracks. I'm going to extend it a little bit. Basically, from Kyle Busch down, I'm going to have a 5. I'm going to take a min 5 drivers starting from Kyle Busch down, and I'll probably X out a few of those guys as well. And that's going to basically just leave me with a max of 1 driver somewhere in the top 13, 14. So that's how I'm going to play it from a lineup construction standpoint.
Yeah, it's great. And I'm going to pull up Saber Sim right now. They'll have the sims ready for NASCAR. It's a late race today, 7:53. We got the show going early. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, guys. It'll help us out a lot. We are very, very close to 20,000 subscribers. If you hit that button to subscribe, you could be the 20,000th and the 20,000th, I should say. No prize award with that. Hey, go ahead and help us out. Hit the subscribe button there. Hey, maybe if you were the 20,000th and you can prove it, we might give away a hat. I think that would be a good thing to kind of give away there.
Absolutely.
But right now, I'm going to pull up the order here, because just in case people don't know, where is Kyle Busch starting? Kyle Busch is officially starting, 14th, right?
14,
And
yeah. He's
the stats there where it's like 18th on down is what 5 of your 6 drivers you kind of want, but you're cheating it with Kyle Busch because you like him so much, right?
Yeah, one other stat I wanted to bring up is just the drivers who start 29th or worse. We've gotten an average of almost 3.8 of those drivers in the winning optimal lineup. So you can almost put in two rules here. You could kind of, let's say 25th down, you want to get minimum of 3 and then a minimum of 5, let's say, of the 14 or worse. You could put in 2 rules there.
That you can kind of tier it is 1 inside the top 10 at most, maybe even the top 13 if you want to go that far, right? 2 in the top 20 at most. So it kind of double stacks it, right? So like if you can't have a 9th and a 10th, but you can have a 9th and a 19th, right? And then you kind of tier it down to where it's a maximum of 3 inside the top 28, right? And then that way you're always going to have at least 3 guys starting 28th or worse. You're probably going to have 4 or 5 just the way, because those rules aren't going to be like a minimum of 1 or 2. It's, just the fact that you're kind of tiering it down to where you're not going to have 2 guys inside the top 10 or 3 guys inside the top 20. But you're still kind of tiering it down to where, hey, maybe I can get a little different by, playing someone who, let's be honest here. I mean, everyone's live to win this race. That's why Daytona is so great. There is a decent chance that my guy Shane Van Gisbergen, could be a factor late on certain 17th, right? So it's like, not that you would probably click him starting 17th here at all on an oval and stuff, but he has actually been pretty decent on these. I'm just going to say it, but it is like the one thing that you're going to have more guys who are going to be optimal than most. And I think yesterday was kind of a great example of why did that cash lineup do so well? Why did it do so great? The reason why is because they crashed into like turn 3, and it was so many cars. It wasn't like a 1 or a 2 car where, all of a sudden they're spinning in the infield, they hit the wall hard, and then a few cars get collected. It was like the whole field kind of got collected, and all those back markers were able to pass. That is great for cash. Still a great strategy for cash. As far as winning $50,000 tonight, no. Like, you're not going to see, not that, none of these cars are probably going to be real shitters anyway. I mean, like in Xfinity, those 6 cars other than Ellis were, shitters. I mean, there's no other way to kind of describe them. And here, like, I don't want to just jam in a Joey Gase, Casey Mears, and a BJ McLeod in like the same lineup and feel super great about it, right? Because if the race runs relatively clean toward green, you're not going to be competitive. And you want to cover all those bases and stats. Like, you do a great job. It's like you can easily make a lineup of 6 guys starting 29th or worse who could win this race, right? It's like Chase Elliott, Ryan Preece, Noah Gragson, love him or hate him. Like, I think this is the type of track that he can thrive on. Herbst has done really well. I know he hasn't been great this season, but he has done well, on these type of races. Nemechek, got Austin Hill starting 36, Justin Haley starting 37th. Good guys, on super speedway. So it's like, be careful with like, playing complete shitters in your lineup, right? You're going to avoid the wrecks, but at what cost? What's your upside with them? And stats like that's kind of the fine balance, right? Like, like they're good plays individually, but like, is there a line that you're drawing with those guys starting in the back?
I don't know if there's a line I'm drawing. I mean, I'm not going to like limit it in my 150 bills. I'm not going to limit, like give me one Gase, Mears, or McLeod, like just give me one. Like, I'm fine with playing multiple of them in the 150. I'm not going to get a huge chunk of them anyway. So I won't have all that many lineups that are going to have multiple of those guys. But I mean, we've seen it, you've seen it before. I think Gase may have been in one of the optimals if I'm remembering.
I think you are right. And I didn't he get a top 10? I don't know why that's kind of sticking in my head.
I can tell you he did not. So Gase, no, he has not had a top 10. But McLeod has a 7th here.
I knew what I was thinking.
Yeah, so he has a 7th back in 22. I mean, you're going to see it when you look at like Cody Ware is actually who I was thinking of. Cody Ware had the fourth last year.
That's kind of just wild to say out loud.
I know.
Cody Ware got a 4th place finish.
Exactly. So I mean, Cody Ware started 33rd, finished 4th, was obviously in the optimal. So that's going to happen at here. Like, it's very easy. You're going to just get one of these guys who finishes really well. and literally anyone can win. Who won this? Was it Daytona? I believe it was Daytona. Wasn't it a rain short in Daytona, or like it was a? I don't even think it's someone in the series anymore. Like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, who won this race totally out of. I can't remember who it was, but anyway, yeah. I mean that's just the way it is at this track. The other thing from a lineup construction standpoint is salary. There's really no min salary. You could really leave it at 0 if you like, because
yeah,
there's no reason to really even to leave 1,000 or 2,000. You can easily see the winner with 7,500 left on the table. So I would put no minimum. Don't worry about that. We're really not worried about salaries, even when you're just hand building and picking your lineup. Don't even look at the salaries. You're looking at star position and kind of what you feel.
It was Harrison Burton, I think you're thinking of.
Oh, that could have been, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was last year where, yeah, he's not in the Cup Series anymore, right? He's in Xfinity, and he ended up getting the win, I believe. So, yeah, I mean, I also wanted to bring this up too, Stats, before we dive into the individual drivers and stuff. And Jerome, shout out to you too, man. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already, guys. Greatly appreciate it. Code RPS15, 15% off your first purchase here at Run Pure Sports as well. Get in on the action. We got a ton of sports this week. MMA just got ended like 2 hours ago, and I know JBC had the Johnny Walker plus 300 winner. That Stats, I got in on live because I woke up at 8:30 and I placed the bet for Johnny Walker because I'm a degenerate, and it was the first thing I looked at on my phone. I thought, oh man, there's an MMA main event going on now. Like, so
it's like most people wake up on the weekends and it's like their time to relax. I wake up on the weekend, I'm like full of anxiety, ready to, we've got so much to do on Saturdays and Sundays. And then when they put these events overnight, it's like UFC or Formula One or something, like something's going on overnight, and we got to get involved in it. So it never ends, but that's part of the fun.
Absolutely. And that Johnny Walker winner was just real tasty to kind of just see early on here. I enjoyed it. Especially because I didn't realize that the round one finish for the other guy was so high. And I bet it with like a minute to go in round one. I turned on the fight, and the announcer's like, yeah, it was a great round for the other guy. I'm like, oh man, this ain't good. then he just got him with the calf kick or whatever. And, that was a lot of fun there. It's nice to, I don't know shit about UFC really, but hey, I know a lot of people at Run Pure Sports do. And it allows me to enjoy a fight to wake up to start my day. Not that, I recommend waking up and immediately betting, but hey, it happens. It's something that
if you're it's a lot easier if you're talented. You can justify it. You're like, well, I'm telling JBC, so I don't really have to put much thought into it. But waking up and like, there's probably a few things you don't want to do. Like the first thing you wake up, it's really like, and not saying I haven't done any, these, but it's like having some booze on your nightstand and waking up and taking a sip first thing you do in the morning. That would be up there. Maybe smoking a cigarette like as your eyes are opening, not the
about the trifecta there, just immediately open it up.
And then so having a scotch on your bedstand with a cigarette and then placing a bet would be, I mean, that would be a pretty cool scene in a movie, I think, but I don't know if I've ever seen that done live.
I bet like I think I had like 24 open bets when I went to bed for the British Masters, which is the DP World Tour event. So, I kind of went to bed like, okay, let's see how I did overnight, right? And so like, then it was kind of like stemming from that to where it's like, let's see how we did overnight, right? Like I had like 5-6 hours of sleep, and it was finally time to kind of uncover the truth. And luckily, we had a great night, and we're having a great morning. So. The morning with the Walker stuff, but yeah, it helps to have so many guys you can tail to just have some good success here. We'll get back to NASCAR here in just a second, but I did want to bring up one thing. I'm going to stop sharing the screen because this is the last regular season race for NASCAR Cup Series. It's not that for Xfinity. I might have made that mistake yesterday, Stats. I might have had an entire scenario typed out, and then I realized, oh shit, there's still 2 more races after this. I was like describing, I'm like, Harrison Burton and Jeb Burton are battling it out. I'm like, Carson Cavapel safe on points, and then I looked at it, I'm like, oh man, that was all for nothing, right? This is not all for nothing. The winner, Austin Dillon, last week, bumping the playoff line down to where Chris Buescher is now out of the playoff picture. And there's only one way he can make it, right? I mean, I'm not going to count on him getting first in 2 stages and then winning the race and Alex Bowman DNFing. It's a win. And Ryan Preece, who has been spectacular until last week. I mean, last week was unlucky. to say the least. I thought he, it killed his playoff chances. But either way, an Austin Dillon win was going to kill that. To where this week it's a do or die. And anyone below this playoff line, I mean, Alex Bowman's got to be sweating because he's got to realize, like, look, I got to make it. I won't make it if anyone below the cutoff line wins. Any way to approach this stats, because it's a common question, right? It's like that kind of makes this Daytona race more interesting in terms of, Daytona 500 is great, right? We know what it is. Everyone wants to win it. But also this caveat of this isn't kind of like Talladega or, Atlanta, right? This is the season for most of these guys. For over half the field, their season kind of ends right here. Not to say like, when 3 weeks from now wouldn't hit the same, but, getting into the playoffs is a big deal. Does that make you want to, because we've talked about this in the past, like Chris Buescher and Ryan Preece, like, does that make you want them like a little bit less than usual because they're going to be gunning for the win so much that they are completely do or die? You talk about that with Dinger on road courses all the time. Is that kind of in your mind here today?
Yeah, I mean, it enters my mind, but it's so hard to, at this type of a track to really predict anything. So I think you just kind of have to stick to the tried and true. We're taking these guys in the back and hoping for the best. I mean, I wouldn't feel all that great if I was Bowman right here when you've literally got, 35 of these guys with a chance to win this race. And a whole lot of them are not in the playoff hunt right now. So it wouldn't make me feel all that good. I mean, you could see a Kyle Busch win this. I mean, Ty Gibbs could win. I mean, just name Preece. All these guys, obviously Buescher and Keselowski. I mean, basically I can name them all, but guys who have a legit shot, I think, are some of those guys who are right there behind them. So, I would not, I mean, Michael McDowell's had success here. So, I mean, there's plenty of guys who can knock them out. I just think it's really hard to factor that in. Typically it's like, okay, am I nervous about someone that's going to be driving this thing kind of recklessly trying to win? I think that only comes down to the end. And what are you going to do? I think you'll see that from someone, it's just like last night, except there'll be a little bit more up the front. Like if you've got a shot, you're Brad Keselowski, you've got the shot here, you're within striking distance of the lead. I mean, you're basically going to ride that thing. Either you're wrecking or you're winning it. I mean, that's how these guys are going to do it. And what am I supposed to do? Like, I can't discount it. I can't discount them. We kind of want our drivers in all DFS. It's always nice when the player, the driver, whatever, is kind of working in the same way that you are, right? Optimally, like not all the time are they when you bet a game, not all the time are they trying to cover the spread. It's not always working in the same direction as your bet. They don't always have the same objective. So it's going to be difficult here. It'll be fun. Ultimately, we'll probably see 20 cars get wrecked out in the last 3-4 laps. And again, I mean, you just got to kind of hope that it's not your guy. Remember the days when they would bring in Dale Jr. would race, like this would be his only race, like come into the plates, or you'd have Michael Waltrip, like guys who were just so good at these type of races. And for the most part, those guys just hung, like Michael Waltrip for sure, would just literally stay as far back as he could, let all the wrecks happen in front of him, and then, try to get a pretty strong finish late in the race. I think that's kind of the two ways. Either you're way up front, well, you can never be too far out in front, but if you're up in the front line, your chances of wrecking are limited. Or if you're all the way in the back, pretty much everybody in the middle, you're always at risk of because you just can't avoid it. If anyone wrecks 2-3 rows in front of you, you're getting. It was amazing last night at how many wrecks that we had that were fairly clean until that last one.
Yep. And it is kind of like funny too, where I think a lot of people find the races like, oh man, it's boring right now because half these guys know. I mean, all these guys know that it doesn't really matter what you're doing in lap 72. And when they're not running full throttle, it kind of makes the 2-wide, 3-wide racing a little less intense. If there was a path to where it's like, maybe they just don't go hard at the end of stages, like Chris Buescher and Ryan Preece or whoever, like below the cutoff line, is going to make sure that car is not wrecked, by the end of the race. Like that I mean, like they're not going to gun it for, second place in stage 1 or stage 2.
No.
And that, I think that's just the thing is just, it wouldn't surprise me if it runs relatively clean until the end, because that's when the money moves are made. That's when guys can make the playoffs. And that's when, shit hits the fan. And I think shit's going to hit the fan. It's just a matter of when and who. Alex Bowman, I should say, has a chance to get by Reddick on points. He is second, starting second, I should say, today, while Tyler Reddick is starting, not that it matters at Daytona, but starting 27th. There is a chance where if Bowman does have two very strong stages, then we could be looking at that final stage differently for him and Reddick as well, to where it's like Reddick may need a top 10 to advance. And Reddick definitely does not want to wreck out and give Bowman an easy path to just coasting to the playoffs over him. So stats. Let's go ahead and get into this these drivers here. We're going to start at the top, and I already know how we're going to kind of treat this. You've already talked about it with the rules and stuff. And look, we're not going to spend a ton of time talking about the drivers today, because mostly it's about strategy. Stats just did a great job over the last 25 minutes talking about how we kind of should approach this slate, what types of paths are optimal. But we do have some individual driver takes that we'll get to here in a second. But stats, real quick, anyone inside the top 10 that catches your eye? Because I know you said Kyle Busch starting 14th, and even let's do the top 13, right? Because I think it's kind of more of the same, right? You're not going to have much interest in Smith, Suarez, Berry anyway, but it's like Keselowski, you mentioned him individually, right? Starting 10th, a guy who needs a win, a guy who is great here, a guy who's going to be one of the racing favorites. You also have, Marlon Byron, who's won here already this season. Joey Logano, who I think, the highest priced driver on the slate, which kind of shocked me. I know you're only going to have like a maximum probably of one of these guys, right? But you're still like, who is your favorite amongst this bunch?
Yeah, I think, look, if you're going to play this group, there's a few. I think the Penske cars in general all have a legit shot at leading. So what you're really hoping for, obviously, is that they're going to have a strong finish. But if you get one Dom who has the potential, someone who leads like 75 laps with a decent finish, something like that, which is certainly possible. I think Joey Logano probably has the best shot at that. He has led the most laps this year on these type of tracks. So obviously he does fairly well on these tracks. And I mentioned Penske, a guy who used to be with Penske, Keselowski, who you mentioned, I think also really runs well on these type of tracks. So of the guys, I think Byron, who's had success here, he's got 2 wins in the last 2 years here. He's got some really, before, like, he has the first place this year, had a first place last year. He kind of mixed in this race last year, a 27th, but 8th in the year before. And then before that, a lot of DNFs. So it's kind of the way it goes here. But obviously Byron has had success, does well here. So I think it's Keselowski, Byron, and Logano are of the top 10 starters, I think are the strongest ones. And you can certainly leave those 3 in. If you want to X out everyone else, I'm fine. If you want to X out the entire top 10, I'm fine with that also. But if you're going to kind of just sprinkle in a few, I think those are your 3 best options.
No doubt there. I think for me individually, like Keselowski would be the one where I could kind of sprinkle in a little more. So I do want to stay away from the top 10 as much as I can. I'm a little more aggressive than stats in that regard. But yeah, it's like, he talks about, going down to Kyle Busch, having a minimum of 5. That's kind of my path too. I might even do a min 6, but if I did have, someone inside that range, it would definitely be a race winner, right? Like I'm not going to play Josh Berry. I'm not going to play, I guess anyone can kind of win this race, but it's like, I'm not going to play like Alex Bowman, whose ceiling is 49 or 50, or Ryan Blaney, whose ceiling is 50, because the floor, or not, I shouldn't say the floor because anyone can wreck out, but it's like, Chase Elliott could get 15th and outscore everyone on the slate. So it's like, you just want to be careful with that. And Keselowski would definitely be, I think, the one where he's starting far enough back to where a win would put him in the winner, right? And that's the thing. You can make the case for Byron too. Can a win put you in the winner, right? And everyone's going to be 8 to 9 to 1 or whatever up top. But yeah, I think it's worth a stab, because the top 5 could even be enough. I think that kind of gets you around 50. Not that you really want to take that risk if you're only playing a few lineups, but without it, like if you're doing a 20 or so, it is definitely a decent risk to take. All right, stats. Go ahead and talk to me about your range that can get you different on this slate, right? Like, you like Kyle Busch a little bit, and I'm not trying to say you love him or whatever, but it's like you're bending the rule enough to where it's like, hey, like I'll include him in this range, right? Ty Gibbs, Ross Chastain, Michael McDowell, who you mentioned, won here before in the past too as well. I mean, it could have been Dega, but Just good at these type of races. Yeah, Bubba Wallace, Ty Dillon, not Ty Dillon, but Chris Buescher on the playoff picture as well. What is your take on this range in between 14 and 26?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a big range, and you've got, like you said, as we get deeper into it, the more of these drivers the more you're going to like these drivers. But yeah, starting with Kyle Busch, I think he's probably, I might be giving away my pick for under the 20%, but I think Kyle Busch, in a situation where he's got to win to get into the playoffs, and has had really good success on these super speedways, even as maybe some of his success overall has gone down, or certainly he hasn't won in a long time. He's had pretty good results and pretty good fantasy results on these type of tracks. So I trust Kyle to really run well here. I hate starting in the middle of the pack, but as long as the early part of this race kind of stays clean, I think he'll be able to find his way. I think he's going to work his way towards the front and hopefully stay out of trouble. So I think Kyle Busch at a tricky start position has a chance to even win this race. So I think anyone who you are giving a legitimate chance to win the race, starting anywhere outside the top 10, has to get your consideration. So I do like Kyle Busch maybe more than the market will like him here. I mean, you mentioned, I'm just going to throw SVG out there. He's the one guy I don't like. I can't play him at all at the super speedway. Has not had success. He's getting better at the ovals, but he has not shown anything at these restrictor plate races yet. So I'm gonna hold off on SVG. But I mean, in this range, the guys who are going to get some ownership: Buescher, Ricky Stenhouse, who has had success, has won at Talladega, has won here at Daytona. So I think Stenhouse is going to get some ownership. I like him. 25th starting position, a little tricky. It'd be great if he was starting 35th, he'd be one of the highest owned drivers. So I think 25th for Stenhouse. You always worry about Ricky, kind of wrecking out, but we're going to be worried about everyone wrecking out for the most part here. So I like Ricky. Eric Jones is going to get some attention. Buescher, obviously, starting at the 24th spot, has had some success. He has won here as well. He's got a couple of back-to-back top 10 finishes at this track. His worst finish has been 18th back last year over the last few years, and like 5 or 6 races that we've had here. So he's had a lot of success at this track. So I do like Buescher a bit as well. You're going to just kind of have to spread it out because of the type of race it is. Another guy in this range is Bubba Wallace, who has a win at Talladega, and he's been pretty good at this track. The last time out earlier this year, not so good, but before that, a 6th place and a 5th place finish, 12th place back in this exact race in 23. I think Bubba, another guy. Now he's already in the playoff, so we'll see how he races here. I think he's got kind of nothing to lose. He certainly, he could pick up a few points, but I think Bubba likes to win. So Bubba, to me, is going to be one of those guys. Kind of, I think he'll be up at some point. He will be up at the front. We'll see if he's able to hold on. I think sometimes he gets he races really well. I think he always has speed at these tracks. I think sometimes in the past at least, I think he's gotten a little smarter as he's gotten older here. I think he's made some moves and some decisions late in some of these races that have cost him. So I trust Bubba a lot more now than maybe I did a couple of years ago. I think Bubba's certainly in play. So you've got some drivers in this range. I mentioned McDowell earlier. McDowell's another guy. He's won here way back in 2021. He's going to be hit or miss. Great GPP play. Starting 20th, won't get a whole lot of ownership. And then you got Chastain, who was terrible here in very wrecked out, finished dead last, and but has had sprinkled in some success. Starting 19th, certainly won't get a lot of ownership. But the guys that I kind of have little faith in: Ty Dillon, Allmendinger, maybe Ty Gibbs, and certainly SVG in this range. They're my least interested drivers.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's like you can cut guys out. I was kind of being tongue in cheek about SVG, but it's like I would love for him to win, right? Just to kind of it would be so perfect. But I would X out if I'm doing 20 lineups. I would X out SVG easily. I mean, you kind of get into the range. I would X out almost everyone inside the top 13 except Keselowski personally, right? So here I am trying to cut down guys look, like you can also have the winning upside. I think like Bush, Bell, Host Far all have winning upside. Bush, as you mentioned, I like your case for him. With like, I think I could even like be tempted to cut out like a Ty Gibbs. It's cut out like an Allmendinger just a little bit, where it's just like, oh, I'm trimming the fat. If I'm not doing 150, right? If I'm just doing like 20 lineups, like I want my favorite 14 or 15 drivers, right? And you're going to have almost everyone in the back of the pack, right? You could even trim it down to like, I want my top 18 guys and I want however many lineups I want with them. That's what I want, right? And with the rules I have set, like, you could be more aggressive inside the top 20. Like, let's say I'm not a big fan of, Eric Jones, right? Even though Eric Jones starting 26, he's a very fine play. Like, personally, I could cut out Eric Jones, Ty Dillon, AJ Allmendinger, Ty Gibbs, Shane Van Gisbergen, and, I might even go a step further and say Hocevar, right? Like, and that's just like the reality where it's like I'm trying to cut down my field, like, my fields where it's like, okay, now I can kind of build competitive lineups with guys I know I like and, enjoy the race. Because at the end of the day, Daytona is great because not enough people, no matter what, no matter how many times people race at Daytona, there's still an edge because stacking the back still works. But you're still buying a lottery ticket. It's just the lottery ticket's a plus EV lottery ticket. And, you still want to set yourself up in great position with it. And if I'm cutting out guys, I'm okay with doing that because I know that these guys here in the back of the pack are going to have a great chance to all be in the winner, right? Like, I don't really want to cut out anyone starting 27th or worse. And if I did, it would probably be like, man, I don't know who I would cut out here, Stats. Like,
It's tough.
Custer, Gilliland. I mean, like, those two guys are okay. I mean, but it's like, Tyler Reddick and Chase Elliott are going to be two guys who probably optimal if there's definitely optimal if there's no issues or wrecks, right? Ryan Preece, same way. Preece kind of, I guess he would be like kind of on the bubble of that, but it's like you have guys who are going to be up there with speed and talent. It's just a matter of surviving the race, right?
Yeah, no one has survived better this season than Chase Elliott. I mean, I think last week was the first race. I think it was last week, right, where he didn't finish the race. I think that was the first race this year.
Inside the top 10 or top 15 or something like that. That streak he had was kind of crazy.
He had a top 20. I think he had a top 20 streak going.
That's what it was, yeah.
And which obviously you've got to finish these races to do. And last week he broke that streak. So, yeah, if you're going to trust anyone to keep the car clean and finish this race, it's going to be Chase Elliott. He's going to be the highest owned driver significantly. It makes your stomach a little uneasy when you go 50+% on any driver at Daytona. Listen, I did it last night and it was successful for 99.9% of that race. And then it wasn't. I don't think I would change how I did it. Because last night you had Eric Almirola starting deep. I believe he was 60. He was over 60%. And I wasn't all in, but I was like 75%, and Sheldon Creed was close to like 50%. I was in the 60s on him. And you just never feel good about doing that in Daytona. Like I said, it ultimately bit me, but I think I got close enough to the point where if they run that race again, exactly the same way with one lap to go, I'm going to win it a significant portion of the time. So I think if there's a driver that you're going to really push heavily, it's going to be Chase Elliott today for those reasons. I think his chances of keeping the car clean, I think he's the type of driver, I think he will stay back. I think he's starting back. I don't think he's going to push the issue and try to get to the front early in this race. I think he kind of sits back, lets the chaos kind of happen in front of him, and he'll make his move later in the race. And if he stays clean, get himself a top 10. I see that happening quite easily. I think Preece is the one. These are going to be the two top guys here at the back as far as ownership goes. It'll be Elliott and Preece. Preece starting one position and a row right behind Chase Elliott. But he has, he's not had that much success here. You look at his track history, has not finished, at least in the next gen cars, has not finished better than 23rd here. And he's got a lot of finishes with that he has not, or a lot of not DNFs, let's say. So 32nd in the race here in February, 39th last year at this same race. So Preece has not had a lot of success of keeping this car clean in the next gen, with the next gen cars, at least. If you go back to 2021, he had a couple of top 10 finishes. But in recent times, I think Preece maybe would be the guy of the two I'd be a little less optimistic about. One of the other guys who's going to get a ton of attention is John Hunter Nemechek. And look, he's been really good. His worst finish. He's been here 3 times in the last 3 years. His worst finish was 15th. If you go all the way back to 2020 when he started both races, that year he was 11th. So he's got a 5th, a 15th, and a 7th in the next gen, and then 2 11ths back in 2020. So John Hunter Nemechek knows how to race here, knows how to stay clean. I think I've got a lot of confidence in JHN as one of the drivers who, if I wanted to get heavy on, I think he's a guy that you could do it. Justin Haley's going to get a lot of attention here down at the bottom of the pack, starts 37th. He's got a 7th place finish at Talladega last year. Hasn't had great finishes so far at the super speedways, but like I said, it's, they really don't correlate all that well. You're going to have to get lucky. But he has not had a ton of success. He has a top 20 here in 2025. Hasn't had much success before that. You'd have to go all the way back to 2021. And of course, he won this race back in 2019. So it's been a while, but Haley, I would have less confidence in compared to a Nemechek, who I think I would want significantly more ownership. I think they're going to be very similarly owned. I think if I had to choose between the two, I'd be heavier on Nemechek here than I would on Haley.
Oh, yeah, I agree completely with that. I could go on and on about how the back of the pack is great and like echo your thoughts. But I do want to get into this pick 6 here stats. And, yeah. So while I might have looked like I promise I wasn't dismissing stats for those who thought I wasn't paying attention. I was pulling up my pick 6 and making sure that we are all set with that. And also, I just wanted to mention that pick 6 has a big college football winnings boost, 30% for those who haven't checked it out. Check it out there. You can get a 30% winnings boost on a CFB entry, that as long as it's 3 legs or more. Also, they have a 20% winnings boost on preseason football, which we have been covering the entire season. This is the last day for that preseason football slate, basically. This is the last day of the preseason slate. So we don't have any football tomorrow or Sunday. So stats, it's fun, right? This is the most fun part about Daytona.
First of all, we had this last week. I mean, we missed by a fraction last week.
I was sweating it out stats. Like, to be honest, my teams were kind of dead because I had a lot of pre's, right? And like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, we already got the pre's fastest laps. Like, this is great. Ty Gibbs and Larson run the same strategy. And Ty Gibbs is about 7 or 8 seconds behind Larson. And all the other 4 looked pretty nailed on, right? I think it actually ended up really close with Kyle Busch, which I didn't expect. But all the other 4 were like, I'm like, okay, these are the last 2. Ty Gibbs ended up being 1 spot away, and Kyle Larson ended up being 2 spots away. Ty Gibbs came in well after Kyle Larson. I was kind of getting pissed about that. I'm like, Ty Gibbs waited way too long, and he still had way faster tires than anyone. But Kyle Larson, right when he pit, I knew. I'm like, Denny Hamlin's going to have to hang on. I'm going to have to run on Daniel fucking Suarez to hang on. I'm like, this ain't going to happen. Like, and I'm like sitting here, I'm like, okay, you know what? It's not the worst thing in the world, stats, because, not that, I think it was a $1,000 or something. It was a really good payout. But I'm like, hey, maybe we'll triple or quadruple our money based on, how Ty Gibbs couldn't get the job done. He needed an extra 2 or 3 laps to get the job done. But we had it last week. We're back this week. Lots of props. We're going to try and do 6. I'm not going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. Yeah. I'm not loving the slate this week, stats. I'm just not.
It's tough, man. It's like I'm looking at. I'm like, I can't play laps led, and there's not that many of them anyway to choose from, or fastest laps. It's so hard. So I think I want to lean into fantasy points more.
I did too. Yeah.
Even than starting position or finishing position, and maybe I'll toss a finishing position in there. But I think I'm really looking at these fantasy points, and I want to be contrarian as much as I can because I think it's going to help us with the payout, and kind of go find the guys who are going to be a little chalky in DFS and the ones that we think. I'll throw the first one out there. How about we go Priest less than 46.5? I think he's going to be, obviously, we just talked about him, high owned, certainly a candidate to wreck out of this, and we'll get less than the 46.5 if that happens. So I'm going to start with Priest less than 46.5 on his fantasy points.
You nailed it. And I want people to know that pick 6 is a peer-to-peer game, right, you can get bigger payouts based on what the field does. And if you're the only one to get a 6 of 6, and let's say there's a $5,000 bonus, sometimes there is for NFL. I don't know exactly. When I hit enter, I'll be able to tell. But let's say you're the only one to get a 6 of 6. Well, hell, you can get all of those winning. You get a plus 1,000 if you just do like a $20 entry or something, based on the contest and stuff. So it's like you really want to not be like it's okay to be chalky because you can have a really good lineup that has 6 great plays that you're very confident in and take your 20x. There's nothing wrong with that ever. However, in this format, Stats and I are both recognizing that all these props are basically the same. All these props are basically 8th or 9th place finishing positions. And if you do less on a bunch of these guys who might have a lot of, fantasy chalk or fantasy upside, we could have a way better chance at maximizing that payout at the end of this pick 6. So less than 46.5 for Ryan Priest. Now I said that I'm going to throw in a couple curveballs there, Stats, but I did want to get this one out the way. I want over 43.5 Tyler Reddick fantasy points because I think he keeps it clean. I think he takes that car to the end. And I think a 12th or a 13th place finish is more than enough at that point. And I think that he's going to hang in the back because the last thing he should do is race for the win and get wrecked out in stage 1 or 2 and give Alex Bowman an easy path to the playoffs. This is purely because he's got a good firm grip on the second to last playoff spot. And if there is a unique winner, he can still be safe with a 12th or a 13th place finish today.
I like that. Yeah, I like that call. Definitely a guy who is more focused on staying on the track probably than anything. And if you do that, the fantasy points come. I'm going to give you the guy who I've kind of talked about. I think he's going to compete to win. These are all risky, but I'm going to go, you got to take a little risk. I'm going to go with Kyle Busch here to go over his fantasy points of 40.5.
I like it.
And he's got to finish strong. He's got to. It's going to take a pretty high finish here.
What do we need there? A 10th, I think.
That's a good. Yeah, I always forget. So what does 10th give you?
That's you know what? I think it's a little less than. I think we need like 8.
Let's see, DraftKings. I always forget what the exact scoring is.
I know it goes from like 42 or 44 to like 39 or something like that. You get like an extra few points for a win. I just got reminded that my college football lineups need filled out. We got the showdown in 1 hour in Dublin, Kansas State, and Iowa State. Bruce has all the content up on the site with our showdown playbook, projections, core plays, and much more. Be sure to check that out, guys. I'm for sure about to get all that stuff up, and should be a good time here. I'm trying to check out the showdown.
Yeah, eighth will get it. So eighth gets it if he gets no fastest laps or anything like that.
Okay, and that's the best part too. We talked about this last week, right? We are taking the chance that because 9.5 is his finishing position, we're taking the chance that he gets at least 3 fastest laps or laps led points, and I'll take that all day.
Yeah, I like that. I think because I do think he's going to get himself up to the front at some point in this race. So
and he could easily lead 10 laps or whatever, and it might not sound like much, but 10 laps led and 4 fastest laps, all of a sudden you're looking at 10th or 11th potentially being it. Again, is that slightly nerdy of me to think about? Absolutely. But you got to think about that stuff if you really want to maximize your value on pick 6. All right, I got the over on Kyle Busch, 40.5 fantasy points. I'm sticking with the theme here, Stats. And the reason why I really like this one, because I don't think it's going to be popular. A guy starting second. I don't think his over on fantasy points is going to be popular at all. I'm going to go over 27.5 fantasy points for Alex Bowman. Same reasons as Tyler Reddick. Give yourself a chance at the end. Do not wreck out. My one fear that I could be wrong on is he just balls out and just says, I got to win both stages. And I got to put the pressure. I got to put Tyler Reddick's feet to the coals here. But if he's not a factor in stage 1, sure as hell don't want to be a factor in stage 2. Well, maybe there is merit and you got to bank on Tyler Reddick crashing. But yeah, I think he's got to keep that car clean to the end of the race and really kind of make noise. For the same exact reasons as Reddick, making sure that you're in the playoff picture with a few to go. All right. Stats. 5th one.
This is it's so tricky. All right. I think I'm going to take, let me try to find him. I'm looking. I think it'll be a popular pick, but I'm going to take Blaney less than the 33.5. I'm going to just hope that he doesn't dom a bunch of points. He's starting on the starts on the pole, but hopefully if he does not dom early, which this is not a place that you're guaranteed to dom early at the poll. I'm going to take a shot here. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think a lot of people are going to touch Blaney as far as either way. So we'll see. We'll see how that one goes. I'm gonna go with the less than. I don't love it. I don't love a lot of these, but I'm gonna take a shot here.
No, I like it a lot. I like it. Ryan Blaney under 33.5 fantasy points here, and then I'm gonna go last one. More for the vibes here. More for the energy that we want to bring to the table. I'm gonna go with. You know what? I'm going to go an under because I've gone 2 overs. I don't want to continue to go the over train. I want to get us on a rare occurrence where we're on more unders. And I'm going to go with Ty Gibbs under 30.5 fantasy points. He wrecks out today. I'm sorry. I'm calling it. He fucking wrecks the thing.
I'm good with that. I like that. What do you think? I was contemplating Denny Hamlin over like as a guy who nobody likes. But I just can't. I can't get my. I couldn't do it.
No, I get that. All right, guys. 50 to win 900. I'm going to go through the picks here in just a second. Here, all right. I'm hitting submit right now. All right. So just for people to know, we got Ryan Preece less than 46.5 fantasy points. Ty Gibbs less than 30.5 fantasy points. Ryan Blaney less than 33.5 fantasy points. Then we have Kyle Busch, more than 40.5 fantasy points. Tyler Reddick, more than 43.5 fantasy points. And Alex Bowman, more than 27.5 fantasy points. That's to win 18x or more. So that's the great thing about pick 6. Like I said, you can get some really good payouts there at the end. My upside here, that's my college football upside. 1 second. I was looking at it. I was like 54.5x. We did a touchdown prop at times 2.1 multiplier there. So that's what gave us a really sexy payout in this one. Here, my contest breakdown here, $1,000 for each $12 and $13 entry. So it's like I have upside of winning 4,000 more. Not exactly likely or anything like that, but the upside is there for the way we kind of approach that style. All right, Stats, any parting words for us?
No, I think, listen, it'll be a fun race. It's the trickiest race to bet and to play DFS, but that's what makes it so much fun. So, enjoy the rest of the day. We got a lot of sports on the hand. Also, by the way, we'll throw it out there quick. Splash, we got a contest going against the spread pick. So if you go to Splash Sports /RPS, splashsports.com/RPS, get in there. It's $100 entry fee, and we're going to be doing like a mini super contest. Pick 5 games against the spread in the NFL each and every week, and the most wins will get the big prize. So jump in there and play. All the guys over at RPS are going to be in it, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. It would be a great way for those who like picking against the spread picks. We get 5 a week and stuff. It does look like a really fun format, and a good way to kind of win some bread as well. Should be a lot of fun, guys. Thank y'all for joining us. Thank y'all for watching. We might be back next week for our last NASCAR show of the season before we get into full-blown NFL. Thank y'all for watching. Have a great rest of y'all's day, and bye-bye.